Hi everybody. In this session, we will be discussing your Mains 2025 essay paper, Section A today. Now, before we begin the discussion, a brief analysis of this year's paper. The paper, as compared to all previous years, was relatively easy. The topics were moderately philosophical, slightly abstract, and few topics needed a reflective approach rather than proving them by examples, which could have made them slightly challenging, I would say. But overall, a doable paper, manageable, and anybody who would have interpreted the topics correctly would have had enough content to write on. Then, as you know, that essay is one of the most important subjects in your mains, and it's a deciding paper, and by deciding I mean that essay paper, the marks can help you get a leverage in your mains result. It sits at the apex of the trinity of catalysts that can give you a leverage over other students if you do well, the other two being ethics and your optional. Now, a lot of people, students, face a lot of challenges in writing an essay, and they think that it is not very easy to score marks because there are many aspirants who think they've written a very good essay and they don't get that score, the desired, the expected score. And then there are few students also who don't write, who have not written, who think they've not written a good essay, but then they score very well. So what are the challenges in writing an essay? Let us first discuss. Now there are two categories of students, students A and students B. A and B. Let's change the color. Now the first category thinks that essay is easy. It doesn't, you don't have to spend too much of time in, there is no separate preparation for essay basically. So they think that it is something that we've been doing since our school years, and it is an easy thing to write on. You just need content, which you have obviously because you're studying well, you're reading well. So they don't practice. Okay. The second category we have that who think that it needs separate preparation. They write many essay, they write many tests, and they are slightly better prepared than them because they have the advantage of writing practice. They can write 1000 to 1200 words because they're used to it. Now this category is faces a disadvantage inside the examination hall because they have not written enough essays. But can you guarantee that this category will score better marks than this category? Well, the key to improving or the key to writing a good essay is self-evaluation. You write essays, you write your tests, you get them evaluated, it's a good thing. But you have to go back home and you have to self-evaluate. You have to understand your own mistakes. You have to understand where are you lacking, what exactly is not going right, and you can do it only by rereading your script. Okay, that will also help you in strategizing your paper. You can't blindly follow another topper's strategy. It worked for them, good, it may not work for you. Some people write 2 essays and they are done, they are very well prepared. But there are people who write 8 essays, 10 papers, 10 tests, and still they're not prepared, still they don't know how to, they still lack the basic understanding of writing an essay. So writing an essay is not the main thing, but self-evaluation, getting it evaluated correctly, rereading your essays, and pointing out your own mistakes. This is what is most important. This will help you get better marks. Then we have basic structure of the essay. I'm sure you might be familiar with the basic structure of essay. It has an introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay, this is what forms the basic structure of your essay. Now, everybody knows that this is the structure of the essay. Then how are you going to be different? What can you do to be different from other people? Well, in your introduction and your conclusion, these two are the you can say that they can change the trajectory of your paper. Okay. You may know the content very well. You may understand what you have to write in uh, the body of the essay. You know it very well. But if your introduction is not captivating, it is not effective, then it may lose the interest of the examiner. So to keep the interest of the examiner intact, your introduction has to be very, very effective. Now there are many ways you can write an introduction. Some people prefer story, some people prefer examples, and some people come directly to the point. I prefer coming directly to the point. I prefer writing the meaning of the quote first and explaining it with examples, and then moving forward with the other part of the essay. It is up to you, whatever works for you, it is best. But make sure that when you are starting your essay with a story, please don't write fairy tales in your essay, because that will not work. If you are writing a story, then make sure that that story is very, very well articulated. Until and unless you can express yourself very, very articulately, very nicely, please do not attempt writing a story, because it will only occupy space, and it is not going to help you. Okay. And again, if you're starting your essay with an example, make sure that you're giving good examples. Don't give very don't give silly examples. Don't write about Harry Potter in your introduction. It is not going to help, because I'm sure that the examiner, it has nothing to do with Harry Potter. So don't do that mistake. Don't do that mistake. Then coming to the body. Now, you make sure that if you want the examiner to understand your mindset or your state of mind, then you have to open up dimensions. Make sure that you are exploring various dimensions. See, the purpose of essay is not just to test your knowledge, but to understand the depth of your understanding. I mean, to know how deeply do you understand a topic. For example, if there is glass ceiling, topic says glass ceiling, then you must be able to understand that it is not, glass ceiling is not just restricted to gender equality. Glass ceiling is present everywhere. It is inside the corporates, it is inside the government institutions, it is in democracy, it is in developed countries, it is in developing countries. So glass ceiling is everywhere. You know, the notion that Indians are Indians have no civic sense, it is a glass ceiling. That India belongs to people, India belongs to snake charmers. It is a glass ceiling that is developed. It is the perception of India that is developed in the West, that is established in the West. So glass ceiling is not restricted to gender only. And you have to understand, if you understand the concept of glass ceiling, you would be able to write examples. You would be able to write your content beyond gender. So this is what I mean. So essay, the purpose of essay, again I'm saying, is to assess your depth of understanding. How well are you in applying what you have read, how many examples can you recollect, how how you can apply your ethical theories, your history, your geography into your and you can bring it into the fold of your essay. And thirdly, it also assesses your critical thinking, because there is a time limit. Again, I'm saying that this paper may look very easy on the outside, on the periphery, and for anybody who's sitting outside the examination hall, the papers are always easy. You take your pre, mains, even interview, for people who are not sitting for the exam, people who have not prepared, who are not preparing, for them this exam is very, very, very easy. But for anybody who's sitting inside the examination hall, this paper is a challenge. And it is a challenge not because you don't know your uh, uh, you haven't studied well, you don't know your content well, but it is a challenge because you have to produce the desired answer within a time limit. Even here, you have to write 2 essays in 3 hours, 1000 to 1200 words per essay, which means that you are writing 2400 words in 3 hours, and you have to be very, very swift with your thoughts. You cannot afford to procrastinate. You can't afford to sit idle and think about it. So anybody who must be sitting inside the hall, these topics might not have been very, very easy, but again they were doable. I'm not saying that they were very, very difficult. And the difficulty level of the paper also depends on your choice of the topic. As I said, that few topics were slightly abstract, few were moderately philosophical. They needed a reflective approach rather than to be proved by examples. So if you could reflect on it, if you could produce that kind of content, you must have written a very well essay. Okay. Now, coming back to your discussion. Now, your first topic. First topic is truth knows no color. The second topic is supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Now, these two are abstract topics with a hint of philosophy in it. And why am I calling them abstract? Because they both have been taken out of a particular context. Okay. Now, if you know over here, this word, it is the key word here which indicates racism. Truth knows no color was basically taken from Frederick Douglass, who was an activist, writer, and journalist, and who fought against racism in America. So this is taken from him, where he said that he right to sex, truth knows no color, God is the father of us all, and we are all brethren. Something like this he said, and it is taken from this. That part has come from this. This part has come from that. He also ran a newspaper, so you understand that the underlying context of this topic is racism. Okay. Similarly, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Now, this has been taken from Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese military strategist, and it was taken from his work called Art of War. And in that Art of War, he is talking about that a country can win over its enemy by through other tactics like psychology, like wisdom, and other kinds of influence, deception, rather than fighting a war which is devastating and expensive. So these are the two contextual concepts. And thought finds a world and creates one too. This is philosophical, this is philosophical, and they need reflection. You need to reflect. You need to reflect on these two also, but because they are abstract, these are philosophical. I am only telling you the difference. That okay. Let's begin. Truth knows no color. Now, you all know that even though globalization has brought the world together, we are all interdependent on each other as countries. The markets are integrated, and but despite the in this integration, despite this closeness, people are divided on lines of the color of their skin, on lines of religion, on lines of their creed, the place they belong to, the country they belong to, and even their ideology. Right? If I talk about ideology, we have right wing, we have left wing, we have Democrats, we have republics. So people are divided, and in a divided society, truth acts as a truth should be the moral compass towards a peaceful and impartial existence. Okay, so in this topic, you don't necessarily have to write, I mean, you have to write about racism, but you also have to explore dimensions that go beyond racism. So you have to talk about the social aspects of truth knows no color, how truth is twisted, how it is distorted, how it is manipulated, and how it is presented to people, how the how it helps in developing mindsets, and what are the consequences of it, the historic consequences, the future consequences. So in a way, we have to understand that truth has its own identity. It is uninfluenced by caste, by color, by creed. It stands firm irrespective of the larger public opinion or political pressure. For example, if I give you an example that truth knows no color, it would be the emergency of 1975. The then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, declared emergency, and she said that she's protecting the democratic values of the country. But what happened? The consequences of emergency. It eroded the constitutional values. It eroded the civil rights of the people, and it also destroyed public trust in democratic institutions. So emergency, so everybody knows that, even though she was trying to protect democracy, underneath this whole facade, she was actually abusing power. So this is how you understand that truth has no color. To begin with, you can, again, introduction, your body. In the body, you have to cover many various dimensions, explore as many dimensions as possible. For example, under social aspects, social dimension, you can write about race, first thing. And when I talk about race, do you think that race has become ancient? Racism is still persistent. Uh, Even though the American civil rights movement, where Martin Luther King Jr. very famously said that I want my four little children to live in a nation where they are judged not on the basis of the color of their skin, but the content of their character. So people have fought for racism. People have there have been consistent protests about racism, but racism still persists. And few years ago, the Black Lives Movement again resurfaced the need for an equal society where race is not where people are not judged on the basis of race. Now see, the truth over here is that race, we all belong to different race. It is truth that we all are of different, we have different features, we are different, our skin color is different. It is truth. But This truth does not give anybody the right to discriminate or to treat somebody in a humiliating manner or an undignified manner. This is not what truth should be. Okay, it uh, an equal society does not mean that people become of the same color, or the color of the skin will change, or people. But you have to understand that equal society means that people have acceptance. People live in a more dignified manner. Nobody is inferior, nobody is superior. Okay, so this is race. This is how racism, this is how we have been told, the white supremacy. We have been told that and racism does not always mean that people are against black people. Are the white supremacy is also asserted against the brown people, as you might have seen in Ireland, where a group of teenage boys, uh, they ridiculed and they humiliated an Indian. So racism is not only restricted to black; it is also it also extends to the brown people. The white supremacy has had enabled colonization, had enabled destruction of cultures and societies in Asia, in Africa, and the truth came out that everybody is equal. There is no white superiority. Why are they superior to us? So this is race. The second you can write in social dimension is religion. People are fighting for religion. My religion is better than your religion, or your religion is not as good as my religion. My religion talks about this, your religion does not talk about this. This is also a truth that has come out a lot. You might have heard that a lot of times that people think that Islam is the only religion associated with terrorism. When we talk about terrorism, we think we connect it with Islam. But do you think that Islam promotes terrorism and other religions don't? Then where is mass shooting coming from? So the truth has many layers, and the truth sometimes is distorted, it is manipulated, and it is twisted in favor of a particular group who who is at an who takes benefit or who takes advantage of that lie or that distorted truth. For example, another, if you take India, there is caste system. The caste system was established in the later Vedic period, and since then it has been a source of discrimination in Indian society. It has become an inevitable part of Indian society. When you study Indian society, it is one of the most important or unique characteristic of Indian society. Now, what does caste system do? The Brahmanical scriptures, they perpetuated this discrimination by saying that Brahmins are superior to every other caste. And why? Because Brahmins had access to Brahmanical to the scriptures. They were the ones who studied these uh, religious texts, so they could command uh, over other castes. But nobody understood the fact that the Dalits were not uh, educated, or they were not they did not know about the religious text because they had no access to it. The Brahmins did not give access to any other caste to read these scriptures or to read these religious texts. So when reformers like Jyotiba Rao Phule came, and Mahatma Gandhi came, B.R. Ambedkar led the anti-caste movement. So these reformers, what they did, they provided access to education to these Dalits, to the lower class, the lower caste, the subaltern caste. Jyotiba Rao Phule himself said that the illiteracy is the prime reason behind degradation of human beings. So he provided for their education. And who says that a Brahmin is superior to a Dalit? There is no hard and fast rule or there is no way to prove that they are better. You give them equal opportunities and they are all equal. So this is how truth is. We say that truth has no color because truth is truth. Just because you said, because it has been perpetuated since historically that the Brahmins are superior does not make them superior. It is equality of opportunity that every caste has, and then you have to analyze and then you have to assess which caste is forward or which caste is much better. Okay, so this is the social as dimensions. Then even in social dimensions you can also write that about the gender issues. Women are bad drivers, women are bad at maths, but see, Rajula Srivastava has recently won a very prestigious prize in maths. So can you say that females are not good at mathematics? There are ample examples to prove that the truth stands on its own. It cannot be concealed. Okay. Now there is also a thing that now there are also truths that that truth is distorted. That what was said, like I said, that India belongs to snake charmers. This was an established perception of India in the West. Now, do you think that India, I mean, anybody from the West thinks that India is a land of snake charmers? No, our people are working at the most crucial positions in the biggest MNCs of the world. The Google CEO is Indian, the Microsoft CEO is Indian. So can you say that India belongs to the snake charmers? No, India also belongs to the educated. India also belongs to one of the brilliant minds. India has brilliant minds. So again, if you talk about the economic dimension, if I talk about the economic dimension, then uh, India is thought to be a developing country, and because it is a developing country, it is not a part of G7, but Italy is. And Italy is what? It is the 8th largest economy. Whereas India is the 4th largest economy. So what is this? The G7 says that we are a group of advanced Western democracies, economies. Okay. And they do not include India because they think that India is not advanced Western economy. India, and they also feel that if we include India, then we have to include China, we have to include Brazil, we have to include Indonesia, and it will change the geopolitical dynamics. This is the scenario, this is the argument that is put forward by the G7 countries. But G7 has lost its value. It is the G20 that has taken over. The G20 has become more dominant group. Similarly, if I talk about the WTO rules, the WTO rules are discriminatory in nature, they are biased, they don't favor the developing countries and they favor the developed countries. And we have seen that when it comes to agricultural subsidies, when it comes to trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, how India is stands at a disadvantage, how the prices of vaccinations of HIV and AIDS are very, very expensive in Africa because of trips. So this what does this prove? This proves that you cannot hide truth for a long period of time. Truth has to come out into the light. Truth will come out into the light. So these are all, by just because somebody is able to, somebody who thinks that they are superior, somebody in a dominant position thinks that they can distort truth in their favor, does not mean that the truth will not change because of it. Even if you see in your personal relations, if somebody comes and tells you that, oh, you are not a good student, let's say you have your exam and you do not qualify the UPSC exam, and your relatives say that, oh, you probably were not studying well, but does that change the fact that you have studied? Do they know what you know? you know so, and this happens a lot of times, that uh, you probably cannot fight at that moment, you cannot prove yourself, but that does not mean that the truth will not come out, or people will not get to know what is happening. And it is not necessarily that your results have to talk, but sometimes, even as they say, that roads less traveled take you to more beautiful destinations. And I feel that, and I feel that it is true. And this is the exact meaning of this topic. The truth has no color. Okay, another aspect of truth is that uh, sometimes people know the truth. Now everybody knows that the informal workers, for example, your food delivery agents, your people who are doing other odd jobs in the informal sector, that they are continuously at risk, and they are outside the social security net. But are we doing anything beyond paper, beyond policies, to actually include them into the social security net? Even if I talk about at personal level, are we really helping them? If they are late by 2 minutes, we start calling them, we cancel the order, we tend to do so many things because we think we have the power over them. But are we thinking about their situation? Are we thinking about how are they managing their work in life? So we also have to understand that just because we know the truth, then we have to act upon it also. We can't sit on it. So another example that I want to give is that about that people know the truth, but still people don't, and people are not doing anything about it. For example, say dowry deaths. The dowry deaths are increasing. There is a considerable rise in the number of dowry deaths. Everybody knows that dowry is illegal. You should not ask for it, and it's a criminal offense. Uh, and the administration also knows that the uh, dowry is a criminal offense. But are we doing anything about it? It only says that our law also says that in the initial 5 to 7 years of marriage, if a woman dies, then they are going to consider it as a dowry death. But if a female is in marriage for 9 years, and if she dies, then the case that will be filed will be abatement to suicide, and it will not come under dowry. So can you imagine the prejudice here against the women? Now we say that beti bachao, beti padhao, women empowerment, Lakpati Didi. There are so many programs that have been launched for women empowerment. But are women truly getting empowered? No, they are not. We are only taking a particular statistics. We are not taking the macro picture in consideration. So these are all little flaws that we know the truth. We know what goes behind. We know even in judiciary, a person is proven guilty, is found guilty only if it is he's proven guilty. If they are not proven guilty, then they are free. Nothing can happen to them. And power is such a thing that people think that they can buy justice. People distort evidence, they destroy the evidence. We have seen in so many cases, the Jessica Lal case took so long to be uh, to reach its final judgment. Why? Because the prime witness changed their statements. They were not clear. They were influenced by the accused family. So these are all the minor flaws, or the little, I would say, what should I say? These are all the shortcomings of the society and the governance. That even if people know the truth, they're not doing anything about it. They're not working on it. And for that, we also have. You can also write about that when in society, how can truth stay as a moral, how can truth work as a moral compass? Because truth does not only hold a particular value, but truth is a value in itself. It is a part of a value system. If you read your ethics, what does deontology talk about? Deontology says that means are as important as ends. Then, so you have to virtue ethics. Again, it says that if the intention is good, then even lie is good. If the intention is bad, then even truth is not good. है ना? So even so, truth is a very significant part of the value system. And how do we make sure that, how do we ensure that truth does not lose its value? Through law. Article 14, equality, equal protection of law. uh, Equal protection of law, and one more na? Equal in the eyes of law. What does this mean? This means that you can be a minister, you can be an influential person, you can have money on you, but if you are wrong, you are wrong in the eyes of the judiciary. The judiciary does not discriminate, which clearly means that truth knows no color. Judiciary also favors truth, it does not favor influence. People are equal. Then Article 21, right to dignified life. That nobody can be discriminated. No one should be treated in an undignified manner. You cannot humiliate anybody. You cannot rob people of a peaceful existence. Then comes even the preamble, which is one of the most important blueprint, and which directs all our policies, the tone of our policies and programs. It favors what? It favors equality, liberty, justice, and fraternity. What does fraternity mean? That everybody is equal, brotherhood. What is equality? Again, equality of social, economic, political, all forms of equality it ensures. So preamble is another very important source of uh, considering the truth, or of ensuring the truth stays as a value system. So these are the ways of showing that truth knows no color. They help in proving that truth knows no color, in maintaining truth. Now, also there is another theory in ethics which is utilitarian. And what does the utilitarian theory says? The utilitarian theory says that maximum happiness for maximum number of people. So there is truth which hurts, but there are lies which can save life. So those lies are better than that one truth which can hurt. Now for example, during the partition of India, which was chaotic, which was again atrocious, which was horrific, what happened? There were many families who saved their neighbors who belonged to another religion only by lying, simply by lying. They simply said that we have so many stories where people posed themselves as, they disguised themselves as Muslims in to escape uh, the brutality of the mad crowd, of the mob. So do you think that that lie, that it was a noble lie, it saved life? Similarly, in the the, we can say, the noble lies which is better than truth. Partition, Operation Fortitude was another. And during Second World War, the Allies planted a very deceptive plan, and they deceived the Nazis that there is a particular area where they're going to attack, and they changed the course of history, and they changed how uh, they saved a lot of lives only by that one decision. And it was also the decision that caused Germany to lose. Then there are so many other incidents where people have saved lives by lying, where people have said smaller lies just to protect other people. So there are, if you see, even doctors, sometimes they don't tell their patients about their illness if something is chronic or if something is very very serious, because they don't want the patient to take stress. So these are all the noble lies that are better than truth. So you can say that truth itself is of great value. It is a reflection of the moral consciousness of a society, and it also guides the evolution of society in a more pragmatic uh, way. But not all truths are productive, not all truths are useful. Sometimes even one lie can help people. But having said this, you also have to understand that uh, you cannot uh, undermine somebody's status. You cannot treat anybody in an undignified way simply because you think it is true, simply because you believe in truth. Now, what are other, there are also fake news, there are paid news which try to spread hatred in the minds of people. I mean, if you see India in the last few years, India has changed so much that people have become radical. They have started following the Hindutva ideology, which is completely uh, overridden by the agendas, political agendas of people who are not even religious in nature. So what is happening? That they are, they think that they are covering the truth. They think that they can conceal the truth, but it is not so. It is also resulting in fragmentation of the society. The society is getting more and more fractured every single day. So if India has to stay united, India also has to understand truths of, and truth can be subjective. And we also have to understand that truth is not only objective, it is also subjective. I have my truth, you have your truth. If two people are viewing a situation from two different angles, that does not mean that this person's perception is wrong or my perception is wrong, my perception of truth is wrong. We are all telling the same story but from a very different angle, and therefore we must have acceptance for people, we must have acceptance for the various dimensions of truth. Okay, so this was your first topic. I hope that it was useful. Now, second topic, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Now, given the current scenario that we are living in, we have just overcome, uh, or we can say that we have just pushed a conflict towards the edge in May and June in the name of Operation Sindoor. So we are living in a very uh, uh, unstable, in a very fragmented, in a fractured world today, where the dangers of unipolarism are on a rise, polarization is on a rise, and in given that these such circumstances, it is obviously better for any country to not get engaged in war. War has never been the solution to any problems anywhere. So the main crux of this topic is that there are other ways of uh, if you want to win over your enemy, then there are other ways of doing it. There is deception, there is influence, there is wisdom, there is psychological tactics, rather than going for war, because war is expensive, war is destructive. If you see the if I talk about history, then the wars that India has fought with China, with Pakistan, has it resolved the issue between between these countries, India, China, India, Pakistan? Uh, we still we are yet to find a solution, or we are yet to put a full stop on the kind of the conflict that we are, the border disputes that we are having. We are still not sure that how are we going to solve it. China says that Arunachal belongs to China. India says that Arunachal belongs to India. The Pakistan says that Kashmir belongs to Pakistan. India says that Kashmir is an inevitable part of India. So where do you think that this conflict will stop? And how, if at all there is a war, then what are the consequences of those wars? What will happen? So war has never helped anybody, we all know that, except the people in power, except the people uh, who have forced this war on people. Okay, so let's talk about the history. Let's first talk about the the consequences of war. Okay, now of course your introduction is that fractured society, world. So we need new order, we need peaceful peace. Okay, then in the body you can have various dimensions. Now history. Now if you see that India has fought 3 wars: 1962, the third 1947, 1999. India has fought 3 wars with Pakistan and 1 war with China. These are the 4 wars that India has fought. India has won all. India has kind of lost this one, but it was just China's way of dominating India, and it was not a full-fledged war. But apart from loss of lives and the delay of the third 5-year plan, India had gained nothing from war. And every war brings a country, it pushes it back to so many years. The economic development halts, the funds are misused, the funds have to be uh, built again. There is a disruption of normal life. Also, India, if a country goes into war, then a lot of money goes into military training and defense equipment and procuring those defense equipments. So, war in short is very, very expensive and it is destructive in nature. If you see the world wars, if you see now the world wars, where did it leave the world? It had it affected Germany and Japan the most. Now, Japan, you know the 1945 bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Leukemia, and children are still suffering from congenital diseases and birth defects because of these bombings. So you can imagine the destruction it had caused on the human race itself. So if I see the contemporary times, if I talk about contemporary times, then Russia is is in conflict with Ukraine over what? A piece of land. Simply because Russia says that these people speak our language, so they are us, they are ours. Ukraine says no. And because Ukraine thought that it had the Western countries' support, it can fight Russia. And so these two countries got involved in a conflict which has been ongoing since 2022. And how is it helping? Ukraine was once the food bowl of the world. It was the wheat bowl of the world, and now it is in shambles. There is nothing. People are fleeing the country. People are dying. The civilians are fighting war, and it has run out of funds. It has the Western countries are reluctant to support it anymore. So there is the end result again is nothing. Israel and Palestine, and also to a certain extent Iran. Now Hamas attacked Israel in October 2024, and after that Israel has been attacking Palestine. End result, famine, the worst kind, and unfortunately man-made in Gaza. Thousands of children dead, women dead, men dead, families gone. Iran, uh, Israel attacked Iran and destroyed its nuclear facility at Natanz. And though Iran's nuclear facility stands destroyed at this point of time, Israel knows that Iran will have no difficulty in rebuilding it, but Israel cannot afford to continue war with Iran. So thankfully, the United States and Qatar intervened, and the conflict, the 11-day war, was brought to a halt. So now, when war happens, it is not only destruction of life and property. Okay, as I told you that we are living in a globalized world. So you can also write about the consequences of war in a, again you have to explore dimensions, as many dimensions as you can, because the quote says that war is not useful. But how is it not useful? The two main reasons are obviously destruction, and it is expensive. Destruction of life and property, and it is expensive because of course it needs after a war the countries have to be rebuilt. But there are also other dimensions. War can be war not does not affect the two countries that are at it, but also the other countries which have relations with it. For example, the Russia-Ukraine war, it it raised the prices of gas. Now Russia, because Russia attacked Ukraine, and the United States has put sanctioned on it. It made payments difficult for India. Similarly, the Middle East is, since Middle East is in at war and there is regional instability, it is affecting other countries also. So war does not affect only the two countries that are engaged, but also the other countries, the countries that have trade relations, the countries that have that are neighbors of these countries. Because again, the other consequence first is this. The second consequence is what? Migration. Now the people affected by war are fleeing other countries into other countries. For example, you see how Syrian people left the Middle East and the Africa countries from Lebanon and Syria. When they were displaced, they ran towards Italy. The crime rate in Italy has increased by manifold. The crime rate in France has increased manifold. And why? Because these migrants, most of them are illegal migrants. They cannot find employment in other country. Forget about employment, their life is at stake. So they indulge in all kind of malpractices. They engage in all kinds of criminal activities. So even the social fabric of the countries change because of one war. Then third is the changes in the cultural destruction. Now what happens when, I mean, just look at Afghanistan today. The most famous, what was that? I'm forgetting the name of that. I think some banyan or something related to Buddhism uh, that Afghanistan had, and it got destroyed by the Taliban. Destroyed it completely. There were so many other Mughal architecture in Afghanistan which were destroyed by Taliban. So there is also uh, the destruction of cultural beauty. The culture is getting dissolved. That country has no culture of its own. Afghanistan at one point of time was such a thriving country. It was more modern than India, and it was more modern than, it was as modern as the Western countries. But today the women are clad in a burqa. They're not supposed to. Now they're not even supposed to show their eyes. So what kind of world has, and why what is the result, what, and why is it happening? Because Soviet occupied Afghanistan in 80s, it left it in shambles. Then Afghanistan trusted America, America left it in more shambles, and now Taliban has taken over, and there is no scope for development, there is no scope for growth. The women are crying, the children are crying, there is poverty, there is unemployment, illiteracy, and that the country has no status of its own. The country cannot stand on its own. It is not self-sufficient. It is dependent on its neighbors. It looks up to its neighbors for help. Same goes with Palestine. There is no that Palestine is left with nothing. The same goes with Ukraine. Ukraine is culturally destroyed. It cannot be. It will take ages for it to rebuild. The same is the case with Lebanon. The same is case with Syria. I mean, there are these countries. They were once the what should I say? That they were the epitome of cultural beauty. They had so much of the history in them, and today they are at loss. So the war also results in cultural destruction. So these are all, and let's not forget about other kinds of problems. I mean, we have seen how the Kurdish females have been raped. There is trafficking, human trafficking is on a large scale in such countries. So, there are other crimes. So, war is uh, not only destruction of property and life, war is also destruction of humanity in a way. Now, let's come to the examples of where diplomacy has worked. Okay, you don't have place. Right. Now, diplomacy has worked where? The first example would be the Cuban Missile, where nuclear war was thwarted. See, in today's time and scenario, constructive dialogue is the only way out. You have to have a countries need to have constructive dialogues to be able to uh, abort any plans of war or any scope of war. So diplomatic channels have to be open between countries. For example, India and Pakistan were at loggerheads after the Pahalgam terror attack. India attacked Pakistan in operations under Operation Sindoor, and then the both countries engaged in cross firing, and there were loss of lives. Again, civilians' life was lost. The properties were damaged. The people who were staying on the borderline, on the borders, their houses were destroyed. So this went on for about 10 days, and then of course the US, the big brother, came in and it said that, I'm not going to have any trade relations with you countries if you don't stop the war. And because Mr. Donald Trump is the new nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, and everybody listened, and the war was stopped. Uh, Jokes apart, but the two leaders met, the two teams met, and they decided to stop the sea, and they decided for a ceasefire. Now, this helped in what? This helped in securing India's peace. This also helped that India will not spend its money on war, but on economic development, on social development. It will also mean we that there is peace and harmony, there is routine life going on. So there is no disruption of routine ordinary life. So these are all the diplomatic channels that this is how diplomacy works and helps in preventing war. Dialogue. Okay. The second case I told you before, Israel and Iran, where USA and Qatar mediated, and Iran had to give in. The 11 days war was halted. People are trying for Russia and Ukraine to uh, come at a conclusion, but nothing is happening. But so you see, diplomacy is helpful, and but again, do you think that if a country's internal security is at threat, then do you think that the country is going to sit down and wait, the leaders are going to wait for the diplomatic channel to or to be able to hold a constructive dialogue with the other country? For example, the Pahalgam attack or the attack on parliament in 2001. What happens? When a country is attacked, it cannot sit down and wait for the diplomatic channels to open. It has to revert. It has to reciprocate. In certain situations, war becomes inevitable. Simply, another example, now that Hamas attacked Israel in October, it fired rockets. Now, Israel, what, what was the option for Israel? Israel had to revert. The same is with Russia and Ukraine. Russia attacked Ukraine, so Ukraine had to revert. So war becomes inevitable where there is terrorist activity is going on. You can't hold talks with terrorists. You have to give them back. You have to attack. So in certain situations, when the internal security of the country is at threat, the war becomes inevitable or the conflict becomes inevitable, and there is no scope for diplomatic at that moment. There is no scope for diplomatic channels or diplomatic talks or deception or to decide or to plan anything else but a counter attack. Okay, see, since science has made so much progress that drones are employed to attack, you have unmanned vehicles which can be used to attack. So in we have all there are 9 or 8 or 9 countries which are equipped with nuclear weapons. So you see that if countries get into war with each other, the destruction is going to be enormous. It may have it will not only have an everlasting effect on humanity, but it is also going to destruct and destroy the world in ways beyond our expectation or beyond what we can imagine. So, in this scenario, it is very important for all countries of the world who are at conflict with each other to not just uh, fight but settle down and think about it. Again, this now this supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting is not only restricted to two countries who are at war with each other. Even in your personal life, sometimes you don't have to necessarily go and prove yourself by talking, by fighting. You have to settle down. Like we see that there are a lot of time now that the road rage is on a rise. People get into heated arguments at a drop of a hat. Now this can be subverted, this can be avoided if we decide to use wisdom, to behave wisely, and to not let things get onto us. This is helpful for the peaceful existence of the society. Okay, so you can again write about the historical dimensions, that how even Chanakya did not favor war. He said that it is the last resort, it should be the last resort. Even Akbar, he followed the policy of diplomacy. He employed Rajputs. He married into Rajput kingdoms, and thereby he just gained everybody's support. This is what he wanted to expand his empire. This is what he wanted for regional stability, for his empire stability. So, so these are all the reasons that you can write about the supreme art of war, and use as many dimensions as you can. Again, I'm saying, let's go to your third. Thought finds a world and creates one too. Now, this is a philosophical topic that needs a certain level of reflection. You have to reflect, you have to understand the topic, you have to give your personal opinion about it. You don't simply have to prove it by examples, though examples are very, very important. Now, thought finds a world and creates one too. What does it mean? It simply means that thoughts are powerful. They portray, they are a reflection of your consciousness. Thoughts can either build or they can destruct, they can destroy. So one has to be very, very mindful of what we are thinking, and it is the power of imagination that has resulted in this human civilization, or in this evolution of human civilization. What we are today is because of what we imagined, what we think. Even Rene Descartes said that I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. Right? I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. Rene Descartes. This is what he said. Please, when you are quoting somebody in your essay, make sure that you are uh, crediting it to the right author or the philosopher. Do not mix philosophers, because what happens is that there are certain popular quotes which everybody knows, and if you mix them up, you will be at a disadvantage. Firstly, secondly, there are few topics which will require you to write ethics, but I will suggest and I will advise you to not write core ethics or core topics in your essay, because the examiner is a generalist and he may not have the time to go and verify what you've written. So please make sure that you're writing it in a very general sense, and you're only touching it on the periphery, and you're not writing the core concepts. Okay? Because you don't have to make your answers, you don't have to make your essay very, very mechanical. You have to keep it humanistic, you have to keep it articulate, you have to keep it clear and well structured. Okay? So this is what Rene Descartes said, that I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. And this shows the power of thoughts, how thoughts are important and how thoughts shape us. We become what we think. So again, if you talk about the body of this essay, then you can write about the historical dimensions, and in historical dimension you write about, start with Renaissance. Renaissance was what? Renaissance, why did Renaissance come into being? I mean, it is one of the most crucial stages in human evolution, that there were few people who questioned the authority of the church, they questioned the authority of the religion, and the philosophers and thinkers of Renaissance, what they did, they shifted the emphasis from church to human beings. So they brought man as the center of development. Man. Okay, the thinkers like Machiavelli, Galileo was also one of them, Leonardo da Vinci. So they all questioned the authority of church. I mean, Galileo even questioned, he came up, the Galileo's theories were outrightly rejected by church, and he had to bear the brunt of it, and everybody knows it. And during this is during the Renaissance only that Copernicus came with the heliocentric theory, which said that it is the sun which is the center and Earth revolves around it. So Renaissance changed human history, changed the course of human development. It brought man into the center rather than religion. Then Calvin came. Calvin said that this is not religion. My religion is my work. So Renaissance came. Then came the French Revolution, which gave the ideals of liberty, democracy, fraternity. and also human rights. People got to know what human rights are, which led to the 1948 declaration. है ना? French Revolution, Renaissance, French. These were all outcomes of a thought. No, people did not like the autocratic rule of the French ruler, and they came together and they toppled the government and they established democracy. This also gave rise to democracy, French Revolution, and it also said that the democracy is the best form of governance. It proved that democracy is the best form of government, and that governance should be on merit based, which was on merit, which is today's civil services, right? Then if I talk about the economic dimensions, then I can talk about the balance of payment crisis of 1991. The license Raj was how everybody got to know that license Raj is hampering development. It paved way for LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. As a result of as a result of which India became India was in the Indian market was integrated into the global markets, and India had access to the world global economy. This changed the course of direction of India's development. Economic development changed. Then even after independence, we adopted the 5-year plans, which were futuristic, and it also catered to the present. It resulted in what? Industrial development, and it also resulted in agricultural development. So 5-year plans, the LPG policy, then other policies that have come up. So even today, if you talk about the skill development is done for what? The demographic dividend. To use the demographic dividend, what is it? It was a thought that India is a young population, and since India is going to lose this demographic dividend by 2040, so if it is not put to use, if nobody thinks about how to put it to use, then what is the point? And then we are going to become an aging society, and it has been proven in the recent report of the sample registration system report 2023. It says that India is becoming an aging society. The crude birth rate has fallen, the total fertility rate has fallen. So what it means, that we need to devise more plans, we need to build our youth, we have to go for skill development, empowerment of youth, empowerment. So these are all the dimensions that you can use. If I talk about the psychology of it, the Gen Z phenomena, everybody thinks that Gen Z is everywhere. They don't work. They are they want money, but they don't. They're not sincere in their work. They are seeking respect from people. They are standing up against any form of disrespect. They have a voice. They have everything. But if the Gen Zs are not their energy is not put to productive use, what is the point? the society is going to go into shambles. The society is going to uh, go backwards in development, because we have also seen that people are consuming more alcohol, people are consuming more drugs. So something has to be done about this. So you can also write about this, that thoughts, this is what, this is a generalization of the society. This is somebody's thought that okay, Gen Z's are not as good as the millennials or whatever, but every generation has its own distractions, every generation has its own way of rebellion. So Gen Z's are no different. So we have to consider that they are not different, and we have to uh, you know we have to change our ways towards them. Then if you come up to the social aspects of it, patriarchy, child marriage, widow remarriage, all the reformers who fought against these social evils had some thought in their mind. They went, they saw how uh, how debilitating it is, how sad the situation is, how vulnerable the widows are, and the child marriage is going against the uh, uh, the rights and the basic dignity of a girl. In those times, young girls as young as 3 and 4 were married to men who were older, who were probably 30-35 years old. So this has to be, somebody might have thought about it. This is the result, the sati abolishment of sati, the abolishment of the child marriage and widow remarriage, the right to marry for the widow. All these acts were once a thought, and which have been substantiated, which we have seen materialize, and which has actually changed the course of the social development of a country. So these are all the changes that can help an economy become a country become better. But then, do you think that all thoughts are great thoughts? You think that all everybody who thinks, everybody is thinking good, everybody is thinking in a more mature and a productive way? No, right? This can't happen. We are all human. We are being human is to err. So there are negative negative thoughts will multiply faster than positive thoughts, right? One negative thought multiplies faster than one positive thought. So if you think negatively about yourself, you start thinking negatively. If you think you can't do it, you won't be able to do it. If you think that I can't understand this particular topic, it means that you're not going to understand any of those topics. So one negative thought, if you think that I am not worth, my self-worth is too low, then you will probably have confidence issues. You will have other kind of issues. You will have social anxiety also. So one negative thought is going to give rise to multiple negative thoughts, and the cycle is going to continue till you rewire your brain, rewire your mind to think positive. And that is why we say that human mind is a symbol of infinite opportunities. Human mind can do anything. So Thomas Alva Edison also said that I have not failed, I have only found 10,000 ways of that will not work. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to put forward an argument in favor of the topic, you have to give a counter argument, and then you have to bring a balance between the two. Your essay has to be balanced. In all the three topics that I've discussed till now, I've talked about the positives of the topic, the negative of the topic, and how can you synthesize the two and give a good conclusion. I already told you before that introduction and conclusion are the uh, the crusaders of your essay. They are going to take you forward. An examination, if he finds that your introduction is interesting, they're going to give you that advantage of interest. And if your conclusion should be impactful, it should have you should be able to give solutions to the problem if you have generated any problem. So it has to end on a positive note. Now, we've talked about the positive sides of thoughts, that thoughts find a world and create a world of their own. Now, not all thoughts are positive. There are negative thoughts. When negative thoughts multiply, they multiply faster than positive thoughts. Negative thoughts, for example, radicalization, the Nazi philosophy, ideology, the fascist ideology. As a child, Adolf Hitler thought that Germany lost in World War I because of Jews, because they are outsiders. Anti-Semitism was on a high, and this affected him. So he developed a hatred for Jews, which is regarded as the worst form of uh, the most horrific, historical incidents and the most horrific happenings of history. Concentration camps, the uh, the killings, the mass massacre of Jews in Germany, in Austria. So this is also power of thought. Then second, Nathuram Godse. He was such a religious fanatic. He killed Gandhi. He killed Mahatma Gandhi because he thought he's Mahatma Gandhi is supporting Muslims. He's not, because he was against partition. He killed him. Terrorism. Young kids are brainwashed into thinking that, right? They are brainwashed to think that their religion is superior and they have to save the religion, they have to protect their religion, and they have to do all they can. They resort to extreme methods, which includes terrorism, attacking people, killing innocent people, terrorism. Then criminal activities. Sonam took her husband on honeymoon and killed him. Why? Because she was in love with somebody else. She had no tolerance. What is this? This is a thought. This is her state of. This was a state of mind. She might have thought that her family and the society will not accept her relationship. So the best way out is what? To kill the husband, to become a widow, to put up the fake life, the fake vulnerable life of a widow. This might have been her plan. Then there are other many incidents where people are killing people because they think they have some kind of angst against them. Parking issues, murdering people over parking issues, murdering somebody because they like them and they did not reciprocate. So these are all the thoughts that you build up, the criminal activities that people indulge in. They're all a product of what you've been thinking and how are you thinking it. So these are all that thoughts are not always positive, thoughts are also not always negative, but to human is to think, and we must be very mindful of our thinking. For this we need that if the we have to ensure that people are how can you ensure that people behave more mindful? By uh, awareness programs. If there are any if you think that somebody is suicidal, then they have to go for counseling. If you think that somebody is becoming radical, you have to counsel them. There is meditation, there is yoga. People need to go out and socialize. So a lack of socialization also kinds of cages you in your thoughts, in the web of your thoughts, and you have to come out of it. And how are you going to come out of it? When you meet a lot of people, you get more ideas, you get more positive ideas also, and this is how the human race can continue. This is how development will happen. This is how ideas come. So more people should read more books. Books are also a source of encyclopedia of ideas. So these are all the ways that you can prove, you can give your arguments, you can give your counter arguments, and you can give a balanced conclusion where where you are leaving the impression that you are you can resolve an issue, that you are a problem solver. Okay, so this is where critical thinking also comes into picture. Let's go back. Let's come to the last topic, which I found the easiest of the lot. Best lessons are learned through bitter experiences. It's a day-to-day phenomena, day-to-day experience that everybody might have gone through. That it is the bitter experiences, and by bitter experiences we mean what? Bitter experiences are pain, disappointment, heartbreak, deception. All these are bitter experiences that give you the best lessons of this world. Now, as uh, Chanakya has actually said that the best lessons should be, a good ruler must learn from other people's mistakes. But sometimes, we are all humans, and don't and we don't want to learn from somebody else's experiences. I mean, why should everybody else have all the fun? So that is why we also go and make mistakes. And sometimes the bitter lessons, the bitter experiences give us the best results. And the best example can be that you failed an exam. You failed, and everybody around you says that, oh my god, failure, failure, failure. But you see, you lock yourself in your room, lock yourself, and next year what you see is that you are into IIT, you've cleared UPSC. There are many aspirants, there are many people who have done that they they failed, and they have gathered themselves up, and they have achieved their desired goals. And so this is one of the prime examples. Now if I see again, coming back to the dimensions, if I talk about history, then in history I want to talk about Mahatma Gandhi. Now Mahatma Gandhi, before 1917, if I'm not wrong, he was nowhere in the picture, right? But he was working as a barrister much before 1918, No, not sorry, not 1817, but 1917. 1917, yeah. So Mahatma Gandhi was working as a barrister in London. He had come to South Africa for a case, and he sat in the train, everybody knows, and he was thrown out of the train because that coach or that berth was reserved for the white. Now, that one bitter experience when he was thrown out of the train, that is when he realized the plight of the people working for the Britishers in South Africa, and that is how he took it upon him to fight for the dignity, for the dignified life. And this also propelled him to come to India, and he, on the advice of uh, Mr. Gokhale, he came, and Gopala Gokhale, he came and he traveled across the country, and he realized that the Indians, the plight of Indians living under the British rule in India. So, so that was his first bitter experiences. His second bitter experience came in Jallianwala Bagh. Before Jallianwala Bagh, Mahatma Gandhi had immense confidence in the British. He thought that they are going. He believed in their constitutional methods. He believed in their working, and he was sure of the idea that if we are, if we follow their rules, or if we follow their law, and if we are, uh, we do what they're expecting us to do. For example, learn English, then they will see the goodness in us and they will give us freedom. This is what he thought. But the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy exposed their ill intentions, and it also destroyed his trust in the Britishers, and he launched the non-cooperation movement in 1920 immediately after that. So, bitter experience for Jallianwala Bagh tragedy and the launch of the non-cooperation movement. Then again, if I talk about Jyotiba Rao Phule, see, these are all examples that I'm giving. You have to also write about how in your personal life also you can write about you can write about your personal experiences to make your essay more holistic and more authentic. That how sometimes put an insult or a remark can have that can leave an everlasting imprint on you, and it can propel you to become something that people don't expect you to do. I have there are so many instances, and there are so many people who have risen above all kinds of oppositions and all kind of uh, doubts. The people, they have been doubted, and they have been undervalued, and they have proven everybody wrong by sheer grit and hard work. So Jyotiba Rao Phule was also insulted by a Brahmin friend's parents of only because he was a lower caste. He was from lower caste, and this made him understand that illiteracy, as I told you before, also that it is the ultimate reason for human degradation, human beings degradation. This choke. That is why he worked relentlessly. He worked relentlessly for education of the poor and subaltern classes. Right. Another example can be of Gautam Buddha. The Four Noble Truths, and how he came up, how he attained enlightenment. He attained enlightenment because he saw death, he saw sickness, he saw grief. So all these thoughts, they culminated into, they evoked something in him. It shook his soul, and he went out and he left his home and he went out in search of answers to this misery and cause. And he said ultimately he realized that it is Maya or desire which is the root cause of all human problems. So Buddhism was also a result of bitter experience. He saw what he saw, he did not like what he saw, and he wanted the world to not suffer anymore. So these are all. Then if I talk about the economic sense, the economic aspects, if I talk about, then the Green Revolution, the then Indian Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi was ridiculed by the American president when she went out, when she went to America to seek help because India was suffering from famine, and she wanted US to give her aid, food aid, and America refused, or America ridiculed Mrs. Gandhi, and she came back, and then this was a bitter experience. Then this made her believe that India can become self-sufficient, and why not become self-sufficient rather than asking people or begging people or asking people for alms. So Green Revolution came up with you know those scientific, uh, the mechanization of agriculture, the scientific developments that happened, and which resulted in the mass production of wheat in Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP, and which made India self-sufficient. So this was also a bitter experience. Another economic aspect, if I talk about, is demonetization, which pulled India back in terms of economic development. So India took a lesson from it, and India decided that it is okay. 2000 rupees notes were launched, and then it was decided that it is not working, so India has to come back. So those notes were halted, they are no more in circulation. So these are all the economic aspects. Now, there are then when it comes to contemporary times, then if I ask you, then attack the 2008 attack on Taj Hotel in Mumbai. It led to development of National Security Agency. The tsunami in 2004, it urged the government for disaster management. And today there are too many cyclones, but the impact of those cyclones is not at such a great scale as it was during tsunamis. And there are so many other examples that you can write. You can also write about your personal example, as I said before, about your failures, about sometimes it happens that a friend leaves a remark, and or probably a relative, or sometimes even strangers give you bitter experience, and you know that this is not what I want to do. For example, you're sitting in a metro, and nobody is getting up, and you are very very tired, and nobody is giving you seat. You're ill, nobody is giving you seat, and because nobody is offering you seat when you need it the most, you uh, take it upon yourself that if tomorrow somebody is in need and you are in that position to give, to help that person, you are going to do it. And there are so many people who have done this, who have come out of these uh, these bad experiences, have taught them good important values. They have taught them resilience, it has taught them empathy, it has taught them emotional strength. Because if you fall, that is how you develop your emotional strength, that is how you come back. I mean, if you see Donald Trump, for that matter, He was bankrupt so many times. He was declared bankrupt, but he rose and stronger than before. So it also helps you become strong emotionally. It helps you become more empathetic. It helps you become more patient, and it helps you become a better person because you understand that person in a different way. You are more sensitive to their sufferings, you are more sensitive to their needs, and this makes you human, and this is what the world needs. But at the same time, uh, are all best lessons learned through bitter experiences, or do bitter experiences also make people bitter? See, of course, bitter experiences do not always give life's best lessons. Sometimes some people they succumb to the bitter experiences. For example, suicides. This year, a girl who sat for NEET examination, and she wrote that exam. She came back home, and she thought that she has not performed well, so she gave her life. She gave up. Why? Because she thought that she can't do it. Bitter experiences, suicide. Same goes with dowry deaths. Women commit suicide because they believe that nobody is listening to them. Uh, they've had too much, and they are not just experiences, but they are trauma, and trauma needs healing. And sometimes when trauma is not healed, the ultimate uh, the result or the ultimate solution that anybody can have in their mind is to kill themselves. So suicide is one of the major reasons, or you can say the consequence of bitter experience not resulting or not translating into best lessons. Okay, the second is criminal activity. Again, the young people, you know, a young boy did not get an iPhone. A 14, 15-year old did not get an iPhone, so he killed his father. A man who did not approve of his mother's decision killed the mother. Somebody's killed somebody because of property feud. So, if if parents say something, the child is not used to tolerating that kind of attitude. So what the child does is that they go and they kill the parents. There are so many instances that is happening. So, another consequence of bitter experiences, or in their head it is a bitter experience which causes them to take this extreme uh, step. Okay, then if I talk about if the Sikh rights of 1984, if I talk about the historical example, now after Operation Blue Star, Mrs. Indira Gandhi took the decision to go ahead with Operation Blue Star because she wanted to curtail the rise of terrorism in the demand for Khalistan in Punjab. And she thought that the best way to do it is to kill the Khalistani leader. And what the mistake that she made was that she allowed the forces to enter the Golden Temple, and the conflict between the forces and the Khalistani people, the army, happened inside the Golden Temple, which angered the Sikhs all over India and other places. The Sikhs were very much angered, and unfortunately, the Sikhs were the two Sikh men who were her bodyguard and who were responsible for her safety, killed her in the most atrocious manner at her place. So this is also how bitter experiences, you have this thing that this lady did wrong to you, and the ultimate revenge is to kill her. So 1984 riots also, and after the after Mrs. Gandhi was killed, riots erupted in Delhi, and in which a lot many Sikh people lost their lives, and it also resulted in many Sikh men cutting their hair because they thought that it is of no use. They saw their kin being killed only because they were Sikhs. So these are also bitter experiences that do not translate into best experiences. Okay, then so, and if I take up the last example, then again historical example of Udham Singh, who was disturbed by Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. So he went to London and he killed Michael O'Dwyer, and for which he was hanged in 1940. So these are all bitter experiences that have not resulted in best results, that have changed the mindset of a person. There are also times when when somebody goes through a heartbreak, and the heartbreak is very very disappointing and very bitter. They get into depression, they get into anxiety, they have all sorts of mental illnesses after that. So you can't really say that all the bitter if you are experiencing a if you have a bitter experience, then it will necessarily translate into something good. It is not. Every person has a different tolerance for bitterness, and sometimes people are very very sensitive, and so it is important for all of us that if there is trauma, it has to heal. If we have to have public support, we have to have these support groups which are coming forward and helping people. We have to change our psychology, we have to change our approach, we have to change parenting. So these are all the things that you have to give in your conclusion you have to give solutions to the problem. That if you think that why in some people some experiences can shape somebody and it can build somebody, while the same experience can break somebody else. So why is there such paradox? So you have to give solutions to this, and you have to answer it. You have to end your conclusion, you have to end your essay in the most positive by giving a positive it should leave a positive, your conclusion should leave a positive impression in the mind of the examiner, and the examiner should be convinced that yes, if you know the problem, you know the solution also. And please don't forget that in essay you have to write a counter, you have to write a thesis, antithesis, and a synthesis. This will give you the this is what a good structure of your essay is going to be. If you're writing examples, make sure you're writing apt examples, you're writing good examples, you're not writing, even if you're talking about your personal examples, you're not writing a silly story, you're writing a meaningful example. If for example, as I said, that if you take up this last topic, that best lessons are learned through bitter experiences, so you can also learn that you how failure has um, how failure became the catalyst, or how it helped you achieve your desired goals. How did you become successful after falling so many times? The scientific discoveries, how did it happen? So you have to emphasize on the positive, but you cannot entirely ignore the negative. I hope this session was useful. And if you want to write your essay and you want to send it us for evaluation, please do so. And I again hope that this session was helpful. And till we meet again, happy learning.